we're gonna solder copper today. We're gonna braze a little bit today as well, okay? And what I wanna talk to you guys about first is the different types of copper and what we use them for in the field based on wall thicknesses and stuff like that, okay? Now, this is considered copper pipe, okay, or copper tube, okay? Which is measured by its approximate inside diameter, okay? So it's inside. This is 1/2-inch copper tube, or copper pipe. The inside diameter is 1/2 inch, up to and including 12-inch. Tubing, which you guys have already done, okay, is measured by its outside diameter, all right? So this is 1/2-inch tubing, okay? And here's an easy way to figure it out. Look, that's 1/2 inch, so is that, all right? But that's 1/2 inch inside diameter, that's 1/2 inch outside diameter. So there is a difference between the two, okay? A big difference, all right? So that's really important, okay? The next thing we'll talk about is wall thicknesses, okay? So based on how thick the walls are with this, okay, can tell us what applications we can use it for, all right? And it's very easily identifiable. Color, the writing on the outside of the copper, okay, will tell you what type of copper it is, okay? So we'll go from thickest to thinnest, all right? The thickest copper we have out there is type K, which is green. It's written in green on the outside, okay? So we'll go thickest to thinnest, okay? Thick. Down to thin. All right? And usually what they're using type K copper for is medical air or oxygen, okay? Medical air or medical gas, should we say, so on and so forth. So usually when we get type K, it's a very thick walled, all right? Super thick. It comes capped on the ends as well, all right? Because they don't want anything contaminating it, okay? And when we're using this for medical air or medical gas, no soldering, all right? Brazing only, okay? The reason we can't solder it is because the flux and the solder gets inside of the copper pipe, okay? And that's the last thing someone wants when they're hooked up to oxygen, is to be breathing in solder, okay, and flux. They're not gonna be doing very well at that point. So they braze it, and while we're brazing it, they actually purge it with nitrogen, okay? So there's nitrogen running through it while we're brazing it, and that keeps the impurities out of the copper, okay? It almost pushes it out, so it just brazes on the outside of the copper, okay? So then nothing gets in on the inside, all right? So type K is our thickest, okay? The next one we have is type L, all right? Which is color-coded blue, okay? All right, which is our next thickest, okay? And we use type L for a lot of domestic applications out in the field, okay? It can be used for heating, all right? Or potable water, which is very common. Usually we always use type L for potable water all the time, okay? There's two things I forgot about this as well. You can bend type K. Okay? You can bend type L, all right? Both of them can be bent. They got nice thick walls on them, okay? So they can be bent very easily without compromising the pipe itself, okay, or the tube itself, which is super important. And again, so domestic applications, okay, potable water, heating if need be, all right? Problem is they tend to shy away from type L a lot of times for heating and stuff like that because of cost. Obviously, the thicker the walls, the more expensive it becomes. Type K is ridiculously expensive. Okay, and then it gets down, then the prices start to drop as the walls get thinner as we go along, all right? And the next one, which we will be using today, is type M, okay, which is red, And you can see that right here. It's got red writing on it, okay? On the tube, okay? Pass it around, have a look, all right? It still has a very thick wall to it, okay? But we can not bend it, okay? It is not thick enough, the walls, all right? You cannot bend Type M. We're using it for the same applications, domestic water, heating, all along those lines, okay? But it's thinner, all right? We can't bend it, okay? It definitely compromises the tube a lot at that point, okay? The next one we have is, and I don't have a yellow marker, so you'll just have to bear with me, okay? Is type DWV, which stands for what? Does anyone know?
Drain, waste, and vent.
Drainage, waste, and vent. You got it. Meaning, we only use it for drainage, okay, waste, or venting. That means no pressure coming through here. All right? You can't run it. It can't be full. It can't be pressurized. The walls are so thin on it, okay, that it would wear out quite quickly. Okay, it wouldn't last a very long time. All right, so you could use this for any drainage under your sinks, okay, in your houses, in the buildings if you wanted to, so on and so forth. All right, waste, venting. Pardon me?
That's yellow?
This is yellow. Yes, let me write that here. Okay, this is yellow.
And it's not bendable.
It's not bendable. No, 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 definitely not. Do not bend, okay? Now, it's easily distinguishable between, the fittings are anyways, okay? Between regular pressurized fittings and DWV fittings. Okay, this is called the cup, this portion where the pipe goes inside of here. We refer to it as the hub all the time in the field. I never heard cup until I came here, but I'm sure the proper term is cup, okay, for this, all right? Now, there is a big difference between the two. With ones that can be pressurized, they have a very large cup on them, okay, here. But with DWV, it's really small actually. The pipe only goes in a small portion, okay, into the fitting itself, all right? And what would you think would be the reason for that? Correct, sir. Absolutely, okay? So it doesn't require the pipe to go in fairly deep, okay? Because yeah, for sure, it's not pressurized, all right? So it only has to go in a little bit, okay? It's an easy way to tell the difference between the two, and you'll see them. You'll know all about it when you get out in the field. You will definitely use both, okay, when you're out there, all right? Last one I want to talk about is type H, which is white, okay, but is no longer in use, okay? They don't use it anymore, all right? It doesn't exist, okay? It is definitely out there, okay? It was used for hot water heating systems, all right? But it does not exist anymore, okay? Too thin, okay? So they kind of bumped it up to type M, okay? They got rid of this, or the type H, and now they just use type M at that point, okay? Because these have such thin walls, for sure, okay? Actually, I got one more for type DWV as well, okay? These are all available in 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, so on and so forth. DWV does not get any smaller than 1.25 inches. And most commonly from 1.25 inches up to 2 inch, okay? But you can't get anything smaller than 1.25 inches, okay, for DWV. Does anyone know why that is? No, it's okay, I don't expect you to know either. The smallest drainage you can have is 1.25 inches, okay? Smallest size of vent we can have is 1.25 inches, all right? Hence why we don't need to make DWV any smaller than 1.25 inches, okay? So for example, your bathroom sink can have a drain of a size of 1.25 inches. That's the smallest one it can have, okay? And it can have a vent supplying that at 1.25 inches as well, okay? Have you talked about venting and drainage and waste and venting or anything like that? Okay. Venting is, I'll give you a quick, super quick lesson on venting, okay? Stuff does not drain if it does not vent it, okay? You know those things, pipes coming out of the top of your house and the buildings? Those are vents. Those are there for 2 reasons. To allow sewer gas to escape and allow air to come in and let your drainage vent. And the best way to explain that, you guys, is when you put your finger on top of a straw and you put it in a drain, right? And you pull it out, what happens? It sits in there. What happens when you introduce air? It drains, okay? That's venting in a nutshell, all right? If you can understand that, then you'll be able to vent everything, okay? Everything has to be able to be vented and introduced with air so that it can drain, okay? So there's DWV, drainage, waste, and venting, all right, at that point, okay? 1.25 inches is the smallest one, okay? We understand this, folks? Pretty straightforward, okay? And you're gonna learn all the different applications and how we do this. But today we're gonna work on soldering and we are gonna do some brazing as well, okay? So I'll take you in the back, I'll give you a demo on how to do this, and then we can get started. I can help you out with your measurements and all that kind of stuff as well, and we'll go from there, okay? Okay, let's head in the back. First thing we have is we got a list of fittings up that we're gonna need up at the top. Looking at this, there's my T, 45. Yeah, I gotta do it isometrically, right? 90, 90, 45, 45, so on and so forth, okay? We can start out with what's the first thing on our list up there at the top? 90s. How many are we gonna need? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So write 6 90-degree bends on there, okay? Next, what do we got? 45s. But we're only going to be using street 45s here, folks, okay? The street 45 is going to fit into this T, okay? How many are we going to need? 1, 2, okay? Next thing we need are T's. How many? 2, absolutely. 1, 2, okay? And then we're gonna cap the ends of here. So we're gonna put a cap here and a cap here, okay? Which means that this is not happening, okay? This here, you can cross this off. Okay? All right, now we do have some measurements, okay? We might alter them a little bit, okay? But I'll show you how to get them anyways, all right? For this piece, the first one, which is our A measurement, it says center to end on cap, okay? So that means the center of the 90 to the end of the cap. This is going to be an end-to-end measurement. So that means the length of your pipe is 1.5 inches, okay? I want it 1.5 inches long, all right? B is great, that already gives us this measurement for here, okay? Which is 3 inches, and we're gonna keep it at that, okay? C, we have a 4-inch end to center. Now here's where we have to adjust, okay? And we have to take off that fitting allowance, all right? So with copper, the only real way to do it is to measure, okay? So I'm actually gonna measure from the center of my copper 90 to the inside of the cup, okay? Again, this portion here is the cup, okay? So I want to measure from here to here on my 90, okay? So when we're doing this in the field, that's what we're gonna do. I'm physically gonna take my tape measure, I'm gonna line it up with the center of the fitting, and I'm gonna go to the inside of the cup, okay? And that's what I'm gonna take off. That's my fitting allowance. It's nice and easy with copper because you can see where it's gonna go. We're not threading or anything in. It's fully engaging, okay? So it makes it nice and easy. And for this 90, it is a measurement of 3/8 of an inch for a 1/2 inch 90, okay? So what we have to do is we have to take this 4-inch end to center and subtract what? It's end, so what? How many of these 3/8 do we have to take off? Just one, okay? All right. Understand? Does that make sense, everyone? Why only one? If it was center to center, how many would we take off? 2, correct, okay? But we only have 1, so we need to just take off the 1. So that tells us right now that this C measurement here is 3 5/8 of an inch, okay? If you have any questions, please ask, folks, all right? Please, please ask, okay? Is that C? Oh, we gotta check something now, huh? Huh? What other fitting do we have there? We got a T. So, but, put your 90 beside your T. Exactly the same. There's no difference between the two, okay? It's identical. All right? I don't know if that's hard to... There's my T, and there's my 90, right? Look where it ends. Look where this ends, exactly the same place, okay? So your fitting allowance is identical here, all right? So it doesn't matter, did it, where we took that measurement off from, right? Not at all. Okay, now we have D, and we have 2 90s here, center to center, okay? So that's gonna be 5 inches. We already have our fitting allowance here of 5/8. So 5 inches minus 3/8, how many times? Twice, okay? All right, we're good? Thank you. You got it. 4 1/4 inches, okay? I'm dropping stuff today. It's clumsy. 4 1/4. Yeah, exactly, all the CO2. Okay, so we have a D measurement here and a D measurement up here as well. Okay, make sure you're careful with those. And now it says F is a student choice. F is 1 3/4 inches, okay? Trust me, it sits up properly when we do it that way, okay? Here it is right here. Let's have a look. Let's see what they cut theirs at. All right, this is it here, folks, okay? But you can see this is very, that's not bad. I don't mind that. That's 2 inches. Let's make it 2, okay? 2 seems to be the right angle. So your F measurement will be 2 inches, okay? Again, this is a lot easier than threading or figuring out fitting allowances for threading and stuff. Throw minus thread engagement equals fitting allowance, and then we got to adjust and we got to be all technical with it at that point. With this, it's just a matter of taking your tape measure and measuring from the center here to the inside of the cup and taking off that measurement, okay? Same thing you would, if you're just doing T's, you would do the same thing. You would measure from here down to the inside of the cup here, okay? And we would just take that off, all right? Make sense? Any questions? Good. Let's cut some copper, all right? So, first I'll show you how to cut it, okay? Now this is important. This is super important. Cutters must go in a specific direction, okay? They do not. Then you get something that's called tracking, okay? And tracking is when the pipes start, or the cutters start to cut and they just move up and around the pipe, okay? That's not good. We don't want that to happen, all right? So, best way to do it, I always think anyways, is I have that handle towards me. I have it facing towards me and the copper pipe underneath, okay? Or the cutter's underneath the copper pipe. And then I just turn away from me. As soon as I come towards myself like this, right? Then you get tracking, okay? So take this handle and push it up and away. And all we're doing is just a little bit, tightening a little bit as we go. Okay, you don't want to tighten too much because then you're going to squish the pipe itself, all right? Okay, done. I'm sure we know about this already. What's this on the back? Reamer. Ream our pipe, always, right away. As soon as you cut, ream, okay? Don't cut everything and come back and ream after, you're gonna miss one. Okay, just do it right away, and then it's over and done with. Okay. You know how important this is, okay? Now, once we've got a few pieces cut, we can start putting it together. And now my advice to you when you're doing your project is to cut them all first, okay? Then piece it together when you're done. All right, it'll make your life a lot easier, then you're not going back and forth and grabbing things. You know, of course we want to take our time and we want to do things properly, but we also want to have that little bit of speed, efficiency as we're going, okay? So if you're cutting, then sanding, then fluxing, and then putting it all together one piece at a time, it's going to take you that much longer every single time, okay? So get them all cut first. Make sure all your measurements are good. And I'll cut a few of them here just to make sure. Okay. Next, after we've got all our pieces cut, we have to clean them. And you got to clean the fittings, okay? We have all different types of fittings for copper. Couplings, caps, T's, 90s, 45s, and street 45s. Have you guys talked about street 45s yet? No? So on our regular 45s, okay, 2 female ends. Street 45s have a male and a female end on it, okay? So that's so we can fit it inside of this if we need to. Tight bends, tight spaces inside of here, okay? So it's a fitting 45, is, I think is the proper name for it. Street is 45 is kind of the trade name for it, okay? So you know when your boss now asks you or your journeyman, hey, go grab me a few of those street 45s, 1-inch street 45s. You can look for that. Now you'll know 1 female end, 1 male end, okay? All right, so that's an important thing to know as well. Now, when we're cleaning these, we got fitting brushes, which is super nice. Okay, make our lives nice and easy. We don't have to stick our grit cloth or anything inside of the fittings, okay? But problem is these are only pretty much available up to like 1 inch or inch. And once they get up to 1.5 inches and stuff, then they get really flimsy and they don't work very well, okay? But we get huge copper pipe that you'll solder 2-inch, 2.5, 3-inch, 4-inch copper pipe. It's massive. It's really expensive. Okay, those fittings are $600–700 a piece, okay? So you gotta be very careful with them when you're out there in the field. If you drop one and bend it, your journeyman's gonna be like, unbend it, okay? Because we're not getting another one, all right? And there is ways to do it. You'll learn that stuff when you get out there, okay? But just be careful, all right? When you do the larger copper pipe, do yourself a favor, grab a fitting brush, cut this off and stick it inside of a drill, okay? Then the drill, you get to spin it around on the inside of the fitting. So much faster, it works really good, okay? But for this, you don't really need to. Brush inside, okay? Clean this, all right? And these only last so long, okay? They're not super expensive either, so when they come brand new, they're really nice, all right? And they fit in nice and snug, okay?
What are you cleaning off of there?
So I'm cleaning off the finish that's left on the copper pipe, okay? Or any impurities that are in there, any oils, anything that's in there that could affect it, okay? It's very, very, very important that you get that off, okay? We could see this very shiny, nice shiny finish on the outside, but once we've sanded this, you can see it's very dull, okay? On the inside of the copper. Once you have sanded this, do not touch it with your fingers, ever. Don't stick your fingers inside of there. As soon as you do that, you get oils from your fingers inside here with your gloves, whatever. Then you got to clean it again. It won't solder, okay? It won't adhere properly to the pipe. It just won't work, all right? Same thing goes for the copper pipe itself. Once you have sanded it, you do not touch it where you have sanded it after. If you do, it's not the end of the world. Grab your grit cloth and clean it up again, okay? But do your best not to. If you do touch it, make sure you do clean it again, for sure, okay? Now, we can see that it goes in about 1/2 inch, okay? So when you're cleaning this and sanding it, just sand it about 1 inch long, okay? You do not need to sand all the way down the copper pipe or tube, man, all right? Or 4 inches long, okay? At this point, we're trying to be professionals here. We want stuff to look nice, okay? So try to keep it even. And there's a little trick if you have smaller pieces of copper pipe or tube. Instead of grabbing this part with my hands, my fingers after I've sanded it, I just have a longer piece of copper or a longer piece of grit cloth, that's what we're calling it here. And then I can just sand this other side without actually touching, okay? All right, and you're good to go at that point, okay? So, grit cloth is what this is called anyways. You get some really nice, good stuff. This is grit cloth. This is sand cloth, all right? Which is pretty much just glorified sandpaper is really all that it is, okay? I'm not a fan. I like the grit cloth. It's much better for me anyways. I like it a lot better, so that's what I tend to use if I can. But it's personal preference. It's all really what you're gonna like once you're out in the field, okay? So I'm getting all of these cleaned up now. And you know, inspect it, have a look after, make sure it's sanded all the way around. You don't wanna see any shiny spots on there, okay? I mean it, don't touch. Like if you touch it after, and we soldered up the joint, like I could put my thumbprint on here, solder the joint, unsoldered or sweat it off and take it apart, there will be solder on every single part of this pipe except where I touched it with my fingers, okay? The oils and everything from my fingers will not allow it to adhere at all, okay? So we got that done. I'm gonna clean up a couple fittings here for you guys as well. Then I'll give you a demo on how to do this, okay? Anyone know how the solder is drawn into the pipe? Pardon me? Capillary action, absolutely, okay? Good, you've gone through that part already. Important, okay? Yeah, capillary action, right? And once we've got our fittings cleaned, then we can apply flux, all right? We need this. You cannot solder without it, okay? It's a cleaner, number one. The other thing what it helps to do is it pushes, once we've heated this up, it draws the impurities up to the surface, okay? The flux kind of boils up and you'll see it kind of gets rid of all the dirt or anything that's left inside of the copper tubing, okay? Or pipe. If you try to solder without this, it won't work. Capillary action will not work. The solder will just fall, okay? Off the sides, it won't go inside of the fittings itself, all right? So get some in there. And again, you know, just make sure it's coated. You don't have to go crazy, We're not painting Picasso's here, okay? The Sistine Chapel or anything like that, all right? All right, just put a little bit in there. Like, you don't have to go nuts. Right? You see them sometimes and there's flux all the way up the pipe and so on and so forth, okay? This stuff's acidic, okay? You get chemical burn from this eventually if you leave it on your skin for too long. Now, it's not gonna kill you. It just rinse it off with water. It comes off right away, okay?
Have you ever got it in your eyes?
Yes.
How does that feel?
Lovely. Absolutely beautiful. It's horrible, okay? And it'll drip on you. It's inevitable. It's gonna happen to every single one of you. You're gonna heat this up and the flux is gonna drop on you. Fingernails, it's a really nice feeling. It feels really, really good, okay? You gotta think this is heated up to about 375 degrees, okay? When that's falling on you, it doesn't feel nice. The solder will fall on you too, and it hurts, okay? You just gotta deal with it. You gotta let it harden. It's not like you can take the solder and go like this. It's liquid, okay? That's gonna burn you in every other spot. You'll get it down your shirt, down the sleeves, all right? Yeah, safety glasses are essential. Even when you're sanding, you're reaming, anything, all that stuff can get inside of your eyes, so you gotta be super careful, okay? Well, flux the inside of your fittings, and then again, the outside of the pipe, okay? You wanna do is you wanna make sure that this is fully engaged, okay? That it goes in all the way. That's super important, all right? I fluxed one end, now I fluxed the other. Again, I'm not fluxing them all at one time. I'm not pre-fluxing or do anything like that, okay? They say that this has like kind of a time period with flux, that it's not as effective after 24 hours, okay? Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not sure, but you don't want to flux it and then leave it overnight or the next day, okay? And then come back and solder it, all right? Get everything built, then solder right away after, okay? Fittings. Now, for me, when I was in the field, like soldering is like really like rewarding for some reason. When you do like a really nice solder joint, you know, everything looks really nice and even. Like you walk out of there and you're like, yeah, that was pretty awesome. You know, I did a really good job. And then the insulators come and they insulate over top of your beautiful work, right? Well, that's just, it's not about that, you know? It's about when your boss comes up to look at it after and he's like, wow, man, that's really awesome. I know what I want you to do, you know? When you get this job, when you get to solder and do all the copper pipe inside of like a 25-story building or 26-story building, that's a good job to get, okay? You get real good at it after a while. And it's fun, like I like it, you know? It's a super fun thing to do, and it's one that I really enjoyed doing when I was out in the field, okay? So next we're gonna get set up here, and then I'm gonna teach you how to solder it, okay, right? So I'll talk to you a little bit about solder, okay? There is a ton of different types out there. This is 50-50. Anyone know what's in 50-50? Lead, okay? So we can't use this for potable water or for drinking water, right? Absolutely not, okay? There is applications for it, all right? Potable water is definitely not one of them, okay? What we want to use and what we're going to use today is this. This is silver solder. This is 95.5, okay? Now, it's 95% antimony, okay, and 5% tin, all right? So there's no lead content in this, okay? So it's safe, good to use for potable water. Now that doesn't mean we don't have to clean these out after we've soldered everything before we introduce water into them, okay? We always clean the copper pipe out. Sometimes trisodium phosphate, different types of cleaners that we use that are okay, all right? We flush them. We wanna make sure. The last thing you wanna do is be eating or drinking solder or flux. It's like acid, it's no good for you, okay? So when I do this, anyways, I pull out a little bit solder and I give it a little bend here. All right, that just makes it easy for me to get it around the copper pipe if I have to, okay? Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set up our torches, all right? Now, we know this, we're gonna use acetylene. Acetylene is really nice, burns really nice and hot, okay? You don't have to sit there and wait for a long time. It will heat this up in 5 seconds, okay? And it'll be ready to go, all right? It's super hot, so be very careful, okay? When we're gonna set this up, we're gonna turn on our gas valves here, okay? And everyone should come have a look at where these gas valves are. Follow the line from your hose to our regulator. And right above the regulator is the ball valve for the acetylene. Open it up, okay? When it's in the direction of the pipe, that means it's open, okay? I'm gonna turn it on over here quickly. Okay, we have our acetylene turned on now. All right, next thing we have is a regulator, and I can go over this with all of you if you're unsure, it's hard to see where everyone is, okay? So I'll walk through, all right, and help you get set up at the start, okay? So our regulator, when it's spun clockwise all the way down, means it's closed. You're like, oh, really? It looks like it's open. You know, you're opening it up at that point. It's not, okay? A regulator. So what we got to do is we got to turn our regulator all the way up, okay? And then I usually just go about a half turn back at that point, okay? Now you can adjust your regulator. If it's too much heat, too much flame coming out, you can open it up a little bit or close it so that you're getting the proper flame coming out of your torch, okay? Now these are turbo torches that we have here, these setups. These are not cheap. They're expensive, okay? When you get out into the field, these are with the hoses like $350, $400 a shot. Like, so they're not cheap, okay? Your companies will supply you with all this kind of stuff, which is amazing, all right? We got different types of tips that we can use based on the size of copper or based on whether we're brazing or soldering. Can you pass me that large one there, please? Yeah, okay. Smaller for 1/2 inch, all right? Even 3/4, this is fine. Even up to 1 inch, this will be fine. At 1 inch, I might increase one size at that point. This is when you get into like the 2 inch, 2.5, 3 inch, 4 inch copper pipe where it takes you 45 minutes to solder one fitting. Okay, a really long time, sometimes half an hour, because it's a lot to heat it up, okay? These are extremely loud, folks, okay? Make sure you wear hearing protection. Don't make the mistake that I did. I can't hear anything at all. And it's from this, it's from soldering. It might not seem that loud, okay? After 8 hours of using this, it's quite loud, all right? It'll do a lot of damage to your hearing. So hearing protection's a big one, okay? And we have it at the front of the class, okay? To get these inside, and I'll show you the difference between the two, all right? For sound. We have a quick connect. So just pull this down, okay? In, make sure it's in, and just give it a little pull to make sure it's in all the way, okay? Then we can turn it here to turn it on. You can hear it coming out. No lighters. Do not use lighters. All you need is for that flame to hit the lighter and see you later. So, striker. Okay? And that might not sound loud at this point. That's loud, okay? That'll really do a lot of damage to your hearing after a long time. Okay, now I can adjust it. If I feel like we don't want this. What's that? What kind of flame is that?
Carburizing flame?
Correct. That is a carburizing flame. Okay, very good. We want that nice blue neutral flame. Okay, that's what we're looking for. All right. So that's that tip. Anyways, I'll show you the difference between this and the large one, which sometimes you'll have to do all day. Okay. Now that sounds pretty quiet now. Usually we have this cranked right up. This gets super loud And you can imagine the amount of heat coming off this, okay? This is what we're gonna do when we braise. All right? We're gonna braise, so we're gonna use this. You need it to get extremely hot at that point, okay? You'll see, once that gas starts moving down here, it'll get real loud, okay? All right, soldering. So now I want you to come in nice and close, as possible, as close as you can get, so we can have a look, okay? Now there is a rule for soldering. Rule of thumb, I don't necessarily like to use that term, but whatever, okay? And what they say for copper is a 1/2 inch of solder for a 1/2 inch joint, okay? That means for each joint, you should use about a 1/2 inch, okay? In a perfect world, all right? That happens. But we don't need to. And then they say 3/4 for a 3/4 inch and 1 inch and so on and so forth. I don't know if that's true, okay? But the reason they say that as well, okay, is number one, 1/2 inch should cover the whole side. When you start to use more solder than that, what happens is the solder gets inside of the pipe and it creates these little bumps and it gathers on the inside, okay? Then we get flow restriction and all kinds of problems that can happen there, okay? So try to do it. 1/2 inch for a 1/2 inch joint, okay? Now, when we're doing this, I'm gonna apply the heat to the cup, not to the pipe. The solder is gonna go to where the hottest point is, okay? So we want that solder to get drawn in through capillary action. We're gonna heat it up on the cup itself. Do not heat it up here. Do not heat it on the edge, okay? What happens is that gets it all black. You get all the soot and all the, bad products from here. And then they cover the pipe and it won't allow the solder to adhere. Okay? Also, do not burn it. If you sit there for 2 or 3 minutes, okay, it's gonna burn this. Solder won't work, and it looks horrible, all right? This heats up very fast, super, super fast. So we want it inside. You wanna hit it on the inside of the cup, okay? That's the best way to do it, all right? So I'm gonna do the first one for you and show you quickly here, okay? And then I'll do a few after. Okay? And literally you can almost count it. I could put 5 seconds on the top, maybe a couple seconds on the bottom. And look where my flame is. On the cone here, not on the end, okay? The end's gonna burn it, it's gonna get all that crap on it. Take way longer to heat up. On the cone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a little bit on the top. Push. Done. I just pushed the solder into it. 1/2 inch. Take the bottom, flick it off. This is always what we call a grape on the bottom, or that little bump that gathers on the bottom. Okay? And that has gone around the entire joint. All right? Now, that doesn't always work. Okay? Sometimes you'll push it in and you might look, and being visual is very important. You're gonna see this, and I'll talk about it on the next one, where the solder goes from shiny to dull. That means it's hardened. That's when you wipe, okay? You must wipe everything. It is incredibly important to do so. Do not leave it till the end. Do not wait for that solder or that flux to get cold, okay, and hard. It will not come off. It's a nightmare. And then it's gonna turn your pipe green. All right, very quickly. It's like an acid, so it's gonna eat away at that pipe. We wanna get that flux off right away. So don't wipe it when it's wet. You can look at it. You can be like, oh, it's shiny, 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 dull. You can see it harden up, okay? Then you're gonna wipe. Then you're going to inspect, all right? Now you don't have to inspect it immediately, but if you can, before you move on to the next one, look at it. Oh, I can see all the solder has gone all the way around, okay? If you see any dots, little black marks in there, it could be dirt, okay? It could be impurities. It could be a pinhole, all right? Sometimes it's hard to determine between the two, whether it's dirt or a pinhole. Pinhole's no good, huh? All right? Pinhole means leaks, okay? If you don't fix them immediately and you fill this thing up with water, that's a nightmare, Then you got to drain the whole system. You got to wait for it to dry before you fix the leak. So fix right away. Okay, have a look at it. Oh, I got a little pinhole here maybe, okay? At that point, if you do, all right, if you have a pinhole, heat your torch up, put it right where the hole is, but still back inside the cup. Heat it up quickly. Add a little bit on there, done, okay? Fill that pinhole in and you're good to go, okay? Then you're laughing at that point, all right? Now, no one expects you to be perfect and do this super clean and super nice right off the bat, okay? That all comes in time, all right? It is that simple, but it is nerve-wracking at the start. I completely understand that. We're working with torches and that kind of stuff. It's a lot, okay? Try to be comfortable. The more comfortable you are, the better it's gonna work out for you, all right? Now this is hot. You can see I waited, I wiped it down again, okay? So for those who didn't get a good view of it, trade off with some of the people who did, okay? So you can see, all right, closer, how this is gonna work, okay? Does it make sense, folks? Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna make an important point here on my next one, all right? When we are soldering fittings, you solder the entire fitting before you stop, okay? Don't solder this end, turn your torch off, wait for it to cool down, wipe. Then solder this one, turn your torch off, wait for it to cool down, wipe. What's gonna happen is all the flux is gonna melt out of it, okay? Every time you do that. So when we solder a T, you're gonna solder this, then this, then this, and not in a specific order. Just make sure you get all three of them done. Now you're gonna notice the first one, as you're working your way down the pipe, this pipe's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So the amount of time it's gonna take to heat up is gonna become a lot less, all right? You won't have to hold it for 5 seconds on each one, okay, or 6 seconds. You might have to hold it for 5 seconds on the first one. This one will almost be ready to go immediately. You can pretty much move your torch over to it, add the solder. Move your torch over, add the solder, okay? And I'll show you that right now. And that's common. And when people do that, when they stop after each one, you lose all the flux, you start to burn the fittings, you burn the copper pipe, okay? And we don't want that, all right? Then you gotta take it off, you gotta sand it again, you gotta flux it again. It's a nightmare, okay? So do it all at once, all right? Then wait for it to cool, then wipe down the entire fitting, okay? All right, this is already gonna be hot. Got some heat to it, okay? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a little bit on the top, push. See, it's not there yet. Done. Get the residual off the bottom. Watch how fast the next one heats up. Done. Done, okay? Super fast, quick, flick off the bottom, okay? Get rid of the grapes. Now watch it. Watch how shiny it is, okay? You can see it's shiny, shiny, shiny. We're gonna look at it and it's gonna, there it goes. Do you see it dull up? Really quickly, right? Now we wipe, okay? Immediately after that. And give it a good wipe, okay? Get that flux, get it off of there, all right? Okay? It's super, super important, all right? Last thing I'm gonna do another one. I'm gonna show you the wrong way to do it and what happens, okay? Which is important as well. Then you know where not to make the mistake. All right? So I'll do the last one here. I'm gonna hold it on the edge of the fitting. Look at it burn. Look what's happening to the outside of the copper pipe. Look at it. Atrocious, okay? Watch what's gonna happen to the flux or solder. Look at it. Do you see it all fall off? Hey? Look, is it going inside of the fitting? No. Look what's going on. I've burnt off all the flux, okay? I've got all these, carbon and all this crap that's come off of my torch on the outside of the pipe. No capillary action, won't adhere to the pipe, trash, okay? At that point, all right? No good. Then you're gonna have to sweat this off, okay? You're gonna have to re-clean the fitting, re-clean the pipe. That's time consuming. Time is money, okay? We don't want that happening, all right? That's a nightmare when that stuff happens. So you can see I only held it there for what, 10 seconds? 15 seconds? And that's what happened, okay? So quickly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put it on there. If it's not melting, just hold it a little bit longer. As soon as it starts to melt, maybe pull your torch away. Let the solder go in. Wait till it hardens, wipe. Same thing. This one's gonna heat up faster. I do a little bit of heat on the bottom. Back up to the top. Push down with the solder. Sometimes you might have to go around, okay, with your solder very quickly just to make sure you cover everything, all right? And you should be good to go. Very simple, okay? Sometimes stressful, but very simple, all right? Good stuff. Any questions? Good? Ready to get your stuff cut and stuff? Yes, sir.
Is it helpful to wipe it with a wet cloth at all?
No, no. They say to wipe it with a wet cloth, man. Personally, I don't like doing that, man. What I find is if you wipe it with a wet cloth is it cools down too quickly. I don't think it should cool down that quickly. Things are meant to cool down slowly, all right, and get back to that temperature. So no, I don't use a wet cloth. I might come back at the very end and give it a wipe with the wet cloth once the whole thing's done, but no, I don't do that. Right? And again, that's up to you, right? You'll get that experience and figure out what works best for you, okay? Good? Okay. You guys want to take a break?